So, at points in time in my life, I've tried to figure out ways to explain certain things, and something just came to mind. I haven't done a lot of these videos, but with some social psychological priming, my own reflective emotional understandings, and how one causes the other to feel a certain way, I've come to an example again today and figured I'd share it. For me right now, with what I'm facing, dealing with what is being placed in my life's path by others around me, established and positioned in life with time, resources, and energy to do so, gives me a visual emotional understanding as this. I'm a circle that's filled in the center of a page. And all around me are all these other circles. And we know by life's experience that they're affecting me, and my presence is affecting them. This is a given, right? So when people say, how am I affecting you, or how is that affecting you, you can almost always initiate a likelihood that they're doing something in their life that is criminal to other humans as far as disruptive to truth, right? There is a personal thing that they're applying to their societal behavior so that when they go back to their personal environment, they have a sense of self-comfort there. We all have done this at some point in time or another. Like when you go pick up weed at the park, your whole goal is to get home back to that mindset that you needed to get some weed, and you get some weed and you go home and you want to get back to where you needed weed, and then you have weed in that moment of completion, right? And you try to avoid all kinds of stuff. So when you see these people doing these things, you know that these things have an emotional energy that affect and resonate with other things around them. In this case, a circle on the page like this big, all filled in, right? And then a bunch of other circles all over the page. And you can take away the male, female, size, shape, right? All you have then is which type of circle is it, social status. And when you see these other circles interacting with these other circles, you see this dynamic, right? And the goal is to fill in the other circles with whatever you're filled in with, right? So that you can verify that that other circle is leaving more or less vibrational energy than you want on your circle in the atmosphere of energy, right? So if this circle is you and your emotional energy, then you notice that when these other circles bump into your life, there's different levels of emotional energy. Now you're taking social dynamic away, like not I don't like you, you like me. Are you cute? Am I not cute? Are you pretty? Are you not? Not the social, physiological, aesthetic dynamic of what we judge each other by, but the true criteria of good for you, bad for you, energy, absorption, and giving that you would see if you took an algorithm and applied these circles and floating dynamics in the day-to-day, and then engineer by an algorithmic presence where each of them interacts with your day, and then let it interactively display how the energy transfers, positive or negative, you see what your day needs more of and what your day needs less of. And then you can also see that whether you want it to or not, these other things continue, like U.S. government and this fighting the weed thing. Whether I like it or not, when this stabilizes me and I'm stable, I'm getting impacted by people of different political agendas, right? So their circles, which look different because they're political agenda circles, but circles that are all humans, right? They're rubbing off on my energy and pulling my energy away, like, oh, I'm going to take this. And then I'm like, all right, well, I want to be a good person. And you're saying if I'm going to be a good social being, then I can't do this one thing that makes me a good human being and feel good as a human being. But I have to let that go in order for our social agreeability, right? And the reason is because of all the other stuff that gets caught into that loop of convincing dynamic, which in this visual would be just bits and pieces of color smearing all over the place, pulling different directions, showing that there is a complete creative control. Now, for me, in my circumstance today, I've made sure to cut as many circles out as I could, right? Now there's only like 50 circles in my grouping. That's it. So if somebody somewhere else wants to interact, they have to do it through this grouping. So you know, as time goes on, that this circle over here is now this color, this texture, and this tone because of its involvements of third party, right? And then you're still trying to maintain stabilizing your circle and keeping it individual, but respecting the other circles. So you're not trying to leave any smudges in the other circles when you interact. You're supposed to enhance the other circles, right? And as this goes on, with my grouping getting smaller, now there's like 30 people, right? And then I've compressed it to before where it was like 2 or 3. And when you only have 2 or 3 circles, write it on a piece of paper. When you only have 2 or 3 circles on a piece of paper, you're good. But when you realize that every person you've interacted in your life was a circle, and each of them have a weaponized way of putting a squiggly line or a straight line or a water line or whatever the designs of imagery becomes to be on themselves, you start to see this game that everybody plays. At the end of the day, all you're really supposed to be paying attention to on the page is how your color of energy and how it's supposed to develop as color energy of the circle or personal physiological mental energy of the human is supposed to develop, and how these other things are changing the spectrum of your development with these other personalized markings on the circles, right? And when you have you and your family, say 3, 5 people, 10 people sometimes for bigger families, then socially it's just 10,000 circles on your page all of a sudden real quick. And it looks like it's massive, but it's not. It's only like 16 different groupings of circles. And when you try to define this socially, we have excuses in the emotional categories, again, physiologically. But at the end of the day, if I know I'm keeping my circle in this one space, and my circle only goes to this location and this location, and I know all these other circles were all over this location, and I can tell you where I was when these other circles were there, and I can show you the same different discolorations of the emotional dynamic of the circle, you can start to see that we have to be held responsible for much more than just who we vote for, what we feel, and who we can all prove in what leverage form or another is the victim or the victor in the circumstance when it comes down to being good, decent, respectable human beings. Now, the biggest problem I see is that when you have circles on the page, you're good. Now, add one thing to the dynamic: preference. If you add one thing to the dynamic, well, what if I want my circle to be a square? What if I want my circle? You ruin everything. Because the whole point is, no matter what you want to create it to be, it's all circles on the page, bro. By the example I'm giving, and by detaching the physiological example I'm giving to the understanding separate from, there's still no room for people to have preference. That's the problem. Choice is not preference. When you go to Alaska and you try to build a dome that makes you feel like you're in the Bahamas, but you're in Alaska, you are completely counter-resisting nature. Same in the social setting. Because the only thing I've ever experienced is me pointing out, bro, look what you're doing. And everybody's saying, nah, shut up, man, that's not what you think it is. You feel me? My whole life. Yo, bro, judge put people in jail that are innocent. We know a percentage of them people are innocent. Yeah, but we can't, like, figure out which ones are, so we got to keep... What, bro? Preference. Because the preference, by social standard, is that things are done about things, even if inaccurately. Just get it done. Then try to fix it, right? But that doesn't work on the social dynamic, and it doesn't work on a page of circles. Try it out. Get pennies. Put them on a page. Name them. And then add different markings to them. Give those markings social powers or processes. And then put that dynamic in social settings and play out the interactions of all the people you know. See what happens to your pennies. For your thoughts.